and we have made detailed responses, and the ministry together with the allied institutions are at your disposal to answer any additional questions. We will invite you to take note of the preliminary statements that are on pages 1 and 2, which basically talks about our strategic objectives, the objectives of our vote, talks about our mandate, vision, and mission. I, with your permission, now proceed to present our responses on the key budgetary issues that buttress our ministerial policy statement for financial year 2025-2026. You asked us to appraise you of our budget performance, and on page 3 we provide this budget performance up to last month, and also we provide explanations. We start with the performance. The figures are here on page 3. Mr. Chairman, as of March 2025, the ministry had a revised budget of 164.273 billion, out of which 131.570 billion, that is 73.9%, was released, and 103.208 billion was spent. That is 62.8% of the releases was spent. Mr. Chairman, this revised budget came as a result of a supplementary of 24.102 billion, which was released for fast-tracking the completion of the Jailers House construction. We explained earlier, Mr. Chairman, that the Ministry of Justice and allied institutions spend over 30 billion on rent. So fast-tracking the building of the Jailers House is important to save money so that the money can be used on other activities. The breakdown of the performance is as follows. 1, wage recurrent. Out of the total budget of 16.120 billion, 12.090 billion was released and 10.38 was spent. There is an unspent balance of 1.704, which will cater for ongoing staff recruitment. We need to recruit 10 principal state attorneys, 14 senior state attorneys, and 24 state attorneys. We need to do this because the judiciary is moving very fast to establish high courts in every district. They also want to establish magistrates courts in every constituency, and we are actually lagging behind. We are in no position to be present in some of those places when the courts. You remember, Mr. Chairman, you increased the number of high court judges to a total of 151. You increased the number of Court of Appeal justices to 35. And I believe we shall come back again to talk about the Supreme Court. But we are lagging far behind both the Ministry of Justice and the DPP. Item 2 is non-wage recurrent. Out of a total of 115.86 released, of which a total of 78.79 billion, that is 90.1%, was spent. The unspent funds is for procurable items that either the contractors haven't finished implementing or where procurement processes are ongoing, or the Ministry of Finance is yet to effect payment. And then number 3, Mr. Chairman, is the performance of the development budget. Out of the revised budget of 32.738 billion, 32.702 billion was released, out of which 14.032 billion was spent. This is a development budget, so the permanent secretary will give details in case it is required, because these are based on contracts that are ongoing. So I believe this answers the performance of wage recurrent, non-wage recurrent, and development. The subsection B has the table for the physical performance up to March 2025. I'll not go into the details, but it is clustered under the various departments, starting with legal, advisory, and consultancy services. Mr. Chairman, the Ministry of Justice advises all governments, starting from sub-counties up to the national government. And the budget was 4.553 billion. 3.343 was released, out of which 2.81 was expended. In the same table, we give our target, and you can see that in some cases we actually exceed our targets. As an example, we thought we would only have to deal with 400 agreements and MOUs from line ministries, but we ended up dealing with 701 agreements and MOUs that were received from ministries, agencies. This is largely because of foreign direct investments, which require a lot of agreements. Many of these agreements relate to sectors like energy. We had planned to review 3,600 contracts, and the aim of these reviews is really to ascertain enforceability and legality. We reviewed 2,737 contracts. We were expecting to have 100 internal technical working meetings held. We ended up with 137 interministerial and contract committee meetings. We projected that we would undertake 40 negotiations of government contracts, agreements, and treaties. And these, of course, come with requests for legal opinions. The ministry received 368 requests for legal opinions, out of which 330 were responded to. At the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General's Chambers has made a voluntary commitment that nobody will have to wait for more than 2 weeks to receive a legal opinion from the Ministry of Justice. Later, the PS will inform you of some of the innovations that have made this possible, like making all documents to be electronically available to all the state attorneys, and they are prompted via automatically generated emails that informs them about what actions they are supposed to take. Number 2 is civil litigation. I won't go into the details, apart from mentioning that Our budget was 4.411 billion. 3.265 was released, and 2.677 have been spent. Some of the things you may be interested in are on the second and third columns. You note that the Attorney General's chambers has now taken up even what it never used to do before. In the past, local governments would instruct private lawyers, and they had a lot of arrears on paying private lawyers. But nowadays, the Attorney General's chambers has taken up defending local governments. That, of course, has caused some friction, because lawyers who were benefiting from instructions from local governments, and they were getting retainership fees for no work done, are now up in arms. And Mr. Chairman, that should explain the attacks on the Attorney General's chambers, because naturally nobody would be happy with you if previously they were getting 50 million for doing nothing, and they call it a retainer fee annually, and now you don't get it. The ministry also has to deal with cases that are outside the country, like the East African Court of Justice. The ministry also has to train attorneys, and of course dealing with the difficult cases. Mainly these are constitutional petitions. Mr. Chairman, the government lawyers work under very difficult circumstances. Let me give an example of the anti-homosexuality law petition. While those who took the case to court were staying in a 5-star hotel with a conference room, being given allowances in dollars by their supporters, our poor state attorneys have to work in our very harsh environments, to move on borders and so on. But still, they do this. So when we come to ask for more money, it is really because we are contending with people who are better facilitated, and they are more resourced than us. Mr. Chairman, on page 6, we continue with the tables. This is the one perhaps of most interest to the Parliament, because this is the first Parliamentary Council, the people who draft our laws. 3.971 was budgeted, and 2.926 was released. 269 was spent. We share the credit for the achievements with Parliament, and the details are on the first two columns. I won't go into the details except to stress some of the ones that may be of interest to you as our national leaders. The Copyright and Neighboring Rights Bill was developed through a consultative process. The ministry took it to Cabinet. Cabinet approved it, and 2 weeks ago I signed the memorandum, and I believe by Friday, I think it may have come out in the Gazette. I need to check. Our team here will let us know. Mr. Chairman, this is a revolutionary piece of legislation. It is going to deal with the problem of musicians who create works of art, but then as they grow old, they can no longer benefit because their intellectual property is not protected. This law also, for the first time, organizes the aggregators. The law also will compel radio stations, telecom companies to start paying our musicians. We think this is a better response than politically motivated handouts to musicians. We have worked very closely with one of your own colleagues, the Honorable Rachel Magola. We have also worked very closely with Mr. Edrisa Musuza of the Uganda Musicians Federation, who recently was appointed a senior presidential advisor on the creatives. This I think is a major achievement. There are also many regulations that we have drafted. Many of these are actually to make Uganda the most business-friendly destination in Uganda. For instance, Ugandans will now be able to form limited partnerships. Many times businesses have lots of quarrels because partnerships are really operating in a gray area. So for the first time, Uganda will have limited partnerships. We also drafted laws and regulations that have ensured that Uganda continues to comply with the international standards of anti-money laundering legislation, international legislation. The other day, Uganda hosted the meeting of the Eastern and Southern Africa Anti-Money Laundering Group, and Uganda is now being benchmarked. Uganda left the gray list, as you recall, Mr. Chairman. It was something which was really making Uganda look bad, because investors can't come to your country if they think you can't protect them from bad money, namely stolen money. There are other smaller subsidiary legislation that we have continued to draft. I'll just mention one. Sometimes we have Ugandans who are imprisoned abroad, and it is up to us to make sure that the laws of prisoner exchange applies to those countries. For instance, with the advice of the Attorney General, the other day I signed one of the subsidiary legislatory instruments extending the application of the prisoner exchange laws to United Kingdom. That may be of interest to those who have been following the case of one of our justices, Justice Mugambe. Under that statutory instrument, the British may be at liberty to send her to serve her sentence in Uganda. There are also those who are in Turkey, there are those who are in South Korea, there are those who are in China. So these are some of the things we do which protects our citizens. The Administrator General, we have the Acting Administrator General here. We budgeted for 2.95 billion. We received 2.191 and 1.777 billion was expended. Mr. Chairman, the details are in these columns. The Administrator General's office is one of the offices which I would call a proper pressure cooker, because there are lots of conflicts in that area, and they are understaffed. They don't have the means to move. They have to convene a lot of meetings to mediate these conflicts. You can see that under D on page 6, there were 200 family mediations held. So Chairman, I went and chaired a mediation meeting one day just as a kind of opportunity to experience what goes on. Sometimes there are physical fights where even government property is destroyed. Fortunately, Mr. Chairman, let the committee note that nowadays, in 2 years, these cases should be closed up. The family estates should be wound up. Whatever the court has decided should have been implemented. We thank Parliament for putting a timeline. Otherwise, previously, administrators enjoyed the lifetime powers over estates of deceased persons. Mr. Chairman, on page 7, we have the role of regulating the legal profession. The Secretary of the Law Council is here. This is the department that got really almost less than half of what they needed. 2.010 was budgeted, but they were only able to get, okay, they got about 65%. They got 1.531, out of which they have spent 1.080. They have a duty to discipline lawyers. I'm sure many of you have issues with lawyers. They don't have the money to hold several meetings. There are so many law schools now in Uganda, Mr. Chairman, so many advocates being enrolled. The Law Council has to process a lot of these applications, including applications from lawyers who are from outside. You heard of the case of the Honorable Martha Karua. We also expect the Law Council to inspect chambers, and as more people get enrolled, many lawyers are choosing to practice outside Kampala. The Law Council has to go and inspect their chambers wherever they are. The Law Council also has to hold meetings on continuous legal education and training for lawyers. They have to inspect legal aid service providers. On page 8, we now have the more administrative aspect, policy planning and support services. The budget was 146.876 billion. 118.314 was released. So far, 89.844 has been spent. Under this, government has to participate in international arbitration. We also have to deal with the compensation. We give details, for instance, of war debt claimants with a focus on Acholi, Teso, and Lango. And then the administration under the policy planning and support services have to inspect our assets all over the country, and then they submit board of survey reports that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development have to deal with. Mr. Chairman and members, if you visited the parking lots and go-downs of many ministries, you'll find a lot of vehicles that should have been disposed of long ago. They gather dust because these boards of survey reports move very, very, very slowly. We invite members to take an interest in this. There are many conspiracy theories about that, but the truth is they just don't have money to go through these processes. On page 9, Mr. Chairman, we talk about replacement of number plates with the new number plates. We briefed you in detail about the question of war debt claimants. We requested you of the minimum amount we need this year, and we believe that since you took note, you will be able to act. Uganda is a country that is frequently benchmarked because of the good performance of our Registration Services Bureau. In fact, this month, the Minister of Justice of Malawi is leading a delegation to come and visit. They will also come to Parliament, because in Uganda now you can register a business in less than 1 hour. We have also moved to be a leading center of excellence in protecting traditional knowledge and products which have unique geographical indications. Already worldwide, the Rwenzori coffee has been registered as a geographical indication. The URSP is now working on the Shea nilotica, which is found in areas of northern Uganda. In summary, as I stated earlier, out of the budget of 164.273, what was released is 131.570, and out of this, 103.208 was spent. I'll move faster now with the other questions.
Yeah, move faster because you have 13 issues.
Yeah.
You have just done one.
The reason I talked about the others in detail is because we have often been asked, please account for the money we give you. And now we need to respond to, by giving examples, what actually can have impact. The total allocation, according to what we have, and Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to inform you that the policy statement for 25-26 has been brought. Our staff from the PS's office had to take a border to bring them because of situations on the road. What has been approved, what was initially approved, that's the 3 years that we talk about here. What was approved in 23-24 was 2015.776, with the breakdown as you can see in the table. And the revised budget of 24-25, as I stated earlier, eventually was 164.723. Now this year our estimate is 201.710 billion. Mr. Chairman, we are concerned that when we take financial year 2023-2024 as the base year, there's a drop in funding. In terms of the breakdown by component, we note that the wage recurrent budget remains constant at 16.120 billion across all the fiscal years. Mr. Chairman, the non-wage recurrent budget decreased by 35% from 179.469 billion in 23-24 to 115.865 billion in 24-25. This was because the budget for compensating war debt claimants in the sub-regions of Teso, Lango and Acholi was cut. It further decreased in this financial year now to 88.827. That's the financial year 25-26. Now, technically, and we are told by our technical people that this reduction is because the compensation to war debt claimants, the compensation of 80 billion, has now been classified as domestic arrears. Previously, it was classified as non-wage recurrent. When something is classified as domestic arrears, it means it basically is put on the back burner. It means it is important but not urgent. Mr. Chairman, the development budget increased from 20 billion in financial year 23-24 to 32.737, and this is because we got a supplementary allocation towards the completion of the jailor's house. We invite this committee to take time and see the progress in that building. I visited it recently. It's a beautiful structure. It is having probably what will be one of the best law libraries in our region. There's even a special section where we hope to keep the archives of the Dominic Ongwen case if our negotiations with the ICC are successful and they transfer all the documents, because these are documents we need for our researchers and for our young people to know what the country went through, because the evidence there is really, really, it has gruesome details, including photographs. Those are sensitive archives that will be a nice intellectual treasure. The arrears remained constant in 23-24 and 24-25. That is 0.047 billion. As of now, this financial year coming 25-26, the arrears amount to 80.127 billion, with 80 billion being cattle compensation for war debt claimants. Mr. Chairman, we requested for 150 billion for war debt claimants, and I hope even as we deal with the budget, this is something that really has to be stressed. There's an outcry in these three regions of Acholi, Lango and Teso. In response to the question of unfunded priorities, we will mention the following. Number one, operationalization of additional 5 regional offices, which require 8.337 billion. Number two, completion of the jailor's house, second phase and fourth phase. The second phase will be the High Court building. Sorry, we have the 2 towers of the Ministry of Justice and where the prisons are. Then there is the phase 2 of the police headquarters. I think it has already been partially constructed, but it needs this amount to complete it and also to complete the other 2 towers. 8 billion will be for completion of phase 1. And number 3, defending regional and international cases. The figures are provided on page 12. We require 20.5 billion. We only have 8.7 billion. The fourth unfunded priority is arrears of court awards and compensations. We require 30.2 billion, but the only money we have been given in the budget is 4.5, and this to cater for ex gratia. And then number 5, we need money amounting to 360 billion to construct the African Humanitarian Agency. We made a commitment to the African Union that we have the ability to host the African Humanitarian Agency, and that is why our bid was successful. If we have 180 billion in this coming financial year, we can get started. In response to the next question of whether there were any supplementary provisions in the current financial year and how it was utilized. We wish to inform you, Mr. Chairman and members, that we received a supplementary provision of 24.102 billion, and this was utilized for the completion of the jailers house construction. The next question was on the status of the jailers house project. How much funding has been provided for and what impact does it have? We expect jailers house to cost 256 billion. Phase 1 is already at 85%. I visited it and we invite members to visit. Now phase 2, which is the construction of police headquarters, is at 40%. In financial year 25-26, what has been provided is 16 billion. This will enable the completion of phase 1 and then 60% of the parking deck. The High Court, which is in phase 3, will now be handled after the police headquarters and the parking decks have been finished. When this is completed, government expenditure on rent will be reduced by 30 billion per year. It will also improve institutional coordination and the working environment of our officials. Mr. Chairman and members, if you visit the Ministry of Justice, it looks like a barracks. Even our documents, some of them may not be so safe because the offices are small. Barracks are for the military and usually they are temporary because armies keep moving, Mr. Chairman. For us, we are not supposed to move. We are supposed to be stationary. In response to number 6, on the status of the establishment of the Constitutional Review Commission, how much was provided and how it was utilized. In the financial year 22-23, we budgeted 1.680 billion, out of which only 383 billion was released for the Constitutional Review Commission. Now, because this is a matter where we have not got clear guidance, particularly from the head of state and cabinet, the funds were swept back to the consolidated fund. There was a time, Mr. Chairman, that the Prime Minister asked us to give her an opinion of what is happening on this subject. We wrote. I believe she may have presented the response to the question. Let me recap that from internal consultations in the ministry, and also because we want to be economical, we wanted this job to be done by the Uganda Law Reform Commission. If necessary, under the law, it would be expanded slightly for the work to be done so that we don't require a lot of money. But we still await guidance. When we get that guidance, then we shall move. But we are willing to share the copy of the opinion we provided to the Right Honorable Prime Minister for the records of the committee. Some of us are very passionate about this subject, but government must move as a whole. It cannot move in parts. And right now, the bottleneck is at the top of the bottom. In response to question 7, breakdown of cases won and lost and their monetary value. In financial year 23-24, the ministry represented government in 6,878 cases in court, tribunals and commissions. 418 of these cases were concluded, 311 worth 2.784 trillion were won, while 107 cases worth 0.173 trillion were lost. We note that this is a major victory because of the hard work of the Attorney General's chambers, and it is on this basis that we keep on insisting that our attorneys should be better paid. Like, for instance, you know that DPP, you in Parliament waived their income tax, and ours still have to pay income tax. They are better paid, while ours are not as well paid. And yet it is our attorneys who are at the front line, saving government and winning cases worth 2.783 trillion, which is actually the equivalent of almost 3 financial years of PDM. You could say 3 years of PDM can be attributable to the victories of our hardworking attorneys. In financial year 24-25, government was represented in 904 cases. 393 cases were concluded. 285 cases were won. In that financial year, government was saved 379.9 billion. 108 cases were lost, worth 76.0 billion. In response to the status of domestic arrears, court awards, and the impact on the failure to pay or settle domestic arrears, stroke court awards on the general economy. Right now, the outstanding domestic and court awards arrears are 30.25 billion. In this coming financial year, only 0.127 billion has been budgeted for domestic arrears and 4.5 billion for compensation other than cattle compensation. As I said earlier, Mr. Chairman, the 4.5 billion is actually ex gratia. Ex gratia basically means people who put pressure on the president, either politically or otherwise, and then the president, using his executive prerogative, says, notwithstanding any other thing, this money should be found and paid in the national interest. Mr. Chairman, failure to pay court awards leads to drastic consequences because courts normally also awards interest. So the longer you take to pay, the more you end up paying. Secondly, it also has an impact on the economy. These businesses that are owed this money struggle to remain afloat. They also struggle to pay interest on bank loans that were used to facilitate supplies to government. Now, under cattle compensation of the awarded claimants, the Ministry of Justice has verified that we need a total of 521.698 billion to settle what we have so far verified. In response to question 9, what is our plan to prioritize the settlement of long-standing court awards in the proposed budget? Mr. Chairman, the role of the ministry is really to recommend. We are not the Ministry of Finance, and we are not the leader of the government alone as ministry. But we have a plan, and we never hesitate to make recommendations. Number one, we continue engaging cabinet, and now we are here engaging you. We engage with the Ministry of Finance Planning, and we insist that there should be adequate provision in the budget to set. When we receive these funds, we prioritize paying those court awards with the highest interest rate, followed by what we call the age of the claim. The other thing which is not mentioned in the write-up is alternative dispute resolution. The truth of the matter is that we have found that if somebody is afraid that they may not be paid for the next 5 years, they are willing to take less money today rather than wait for 5 years. So negotiating with those we owe money is also one option. We recently passed the alternative dispute resolution policy, and I think that is also a plan on how to deal with these domestic arrears. In response to question 10, how to prevent future accumulation. 1, we continue engaging with the Ministry of Finance. 2, we have to clear these arrears based on the interest and then how long these cases have remained in our books. And also to ensure that we are present in court. Sometimes we lose cases on technicalities. Either we are absent because our lawyers are not able to attend court for the reasons we gave earlier, and with the many court circuits, that is a possibility. So our budget for opening new regional offices will take care of this. In response to question 11, what we have done to enhance government compliance with contractual obligations, we have got 5 things to inform the committee about. Number 1, whenever the Attorney General guides, he insists that if you don't have the money, don't award the contract. Pure and simple. Number 2, basically that means don't award the contract on the basis of hope. Hope is not a method. Number 2, the Attorney General's chambers rigorously reviews contracts and ensures that the provisions deal with risks between the service provider and the government. There must be a balance. Most of the time, all the risks in the contracts are with the government, and those who are coming to do the contracts virtually have no risks at all. Some of these, for instance, are with the borrowing contracts. You know, for instance, that some of our lenders have been requiring that we commit to put our national assets as security, like our airports, our oil fields, and even parts of our sensitive assets, mines. The policy of the government is to roundly reject those kind of demands, and it is the AG's chambers that has to give that bad news to our international partners. Number 4, a circular, number 3 rather, is to minimize price adjustments unless there is exceptional circumstances. Mr. Chairman, many of these MDAs send documents to the Attorney General with a lot of prejudice. They know they are going to adjust the prices, and then they use a standard phrase, it was approved by the Attorney General. They want to turn the Attorney General into the accounting officer. So we also request Parliament not to take that kind of answer. The Attorney General's chambers is not an accounting office of government, and neither is the Attorney General an accounting officer. So anybody who comes to Parliament and says this was approved by the Attorney General, and they want to use the Attorney General as a shield, the policy of government, and indeed the position in the Attorney General's chambers, is that the Attorney General gives advice and can clear a contract as in the best national interest, but you cannot come back later and say, write for us a letter and say you have cleared this. Accounting officers are given their contracts individually. Number 4, a circular.
Honourable Minister, we have run out of time.
Yes.
We have only 30 minutes. For your
in 5 minutes, I will have closed my submission. sometimes these MDAs send incomplete documents. They send you a contract and then they keep sending the supporting documents piecemeal. So the Attorney General's Chambers has now issued a standard circular saying, unless these documents are attached, we won't even touch your contract. The details of the circular have been indicated. And then number 5, another circular was issued in July last year. There is another trick, MOUs. There are MDAs that bring a contract which is disguised as an MOU. And remember, some of these MOUs are aggressively promoted by diplomats. Many times diplomats are busy speaking on behalf of the foreign companies. So a foreign company that sees a business opportunity comes to Uganda and says, this is an innocent MOU, please sign it, you know, this is good, we are going to do this for Uganda and so on. It was becoming too much, so Attorney General's Chambers had to issue a clear guidance, because many of these MOUs eventually become like a noose around our necks. Mr. Chairman, on page 17, we provide the trend. It is self-explanatory. That is the off-budget programs. We are pleased to inform Parliament that even though we are not trained diplomats, but between myself and the Office of the Attorney General, we have done our best to explain some of the actions of government which have attracted unfavorable responses from our international friends. As a result, they have found ways of continuing to support Uganda without necessarily doing it through the budget. And based on guidance from the Ministry of Finance, we want to assure you that some initiatives are still going to be implemented in the Justice Law and Sector Office through implementing partners, and some of the details are there. In response to question 13, the details are stated about JLO's house, which we talked about earlier, about the African Humanitarian Agency offices. This is significant because there are countries like Rwanda that aggressively campaign to host the Africa Health Agency. We also wanted to host it, but Rwanda took it. But Rwanda has moved ahead and actually provided a home. Now, we do not want Uganda to be known as a country that supplies air. We won this bid. We host the highest number of refugees in Africa. We have demonstrated that we care most about those who are facing humanitarian catastrophes. The details on defending cases in international courts are there. The regional offices, we have made the explanations with details. The payment for outstanding cattle compensation on page 19 are there. We repeat that this is a politically sensitive matter. Mr. Chairman, one day I was ambushed in Soroti by journalists who had been triggered by politicians who had carried out a demonstration. And they unfortunately on the banners they said no cow, so I was wondering whether they only want one or they want all the cows, because on the protest banners they were saying no cow, no vote. But that aside, this figure needs to go to 150 billion if we are going to have locusts. And remember, we said we pay arrears depending on how far back they go. Now this one goes to 1986. So if this logic is true, then actually we must start with it. On court awards, in this coming financial year, there is no money allocated for court awards. We have only got 127 million shillings for domestic arrears. this figure has to be revised. On page 20, we respond to question 14. This is a summary, Mr. Chairman. I already asked the permanent secretary to print books with up-to-date details of names of people who have been paid, because people really need to know who has really got this money. We cannot give a copy to every village, but at least we can give a copy to the districts and maybe even the sub-counties. But the breakdown is here of the actual liabilities. The biggest liability is in TESO, which is 203 billion 508 million 443,324, followed by Acholi, which is 195 billion 499 million 190,483, and then Lango 122 billion 690 million 593,569. We believe that 150 billion, as we mentioned earlier, can at least show seriousness. We should not be, Mr. Chairman, like a man called Unoka in Things Fall Apart, who when people would go to demand for repayment of their debts, he shows them what he had written on the wall, and he says, there are those who owe us, who I owe this big amount of money. How dare you wake me up early in the morning, yet yours is little. So we do not want the government to say we owe the World Bank much more. Why should you people come here to complain and wake us up very early in the morning? Question 15, we gave adequate explanation. It will be in the book. That is the replacement of non-digital number plates with the required digital motor vehicle number plates. The budget allocated was 70.71 million to replace number plates of our 74 motor vehicles and 20 motorcycles. That's a direct question. And finally, the challenges are the usual ones. We are only repeating this litany. Low staffing because the structure is too rigid. And yet we have to catch up with the judiciary. Number 2, we don't have mobility, very few vehicles. And then number 3, limited budget for cattle compensation. And as of now, this financial year, 23.21 has so far been released. And it's hard to even, I don't know how the PS does it. He will tell you. What magic do you do to decide who to pay and who not to pay? Finally, Mr. Chairman, we wish to appreciate this Committee of Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, and that of the Budget and the National Economy for your continued cooperation and support to our ministry. We pray that this committee favorably considers our ministerial policy statement, which we now beg to submit in detail. And we end by repeating our appeal that please provide additional funding to cover the unfunded activities. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the PS, with your permission, has any gaps to fill, I would invite him to fill the gaps.
In how many minutes?
Less than 10.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, through you. Thank you of a digital system that we have embraced called the Electronic Document and Records Management System. We see our Attorney General as an example. When he's traveling, it's like he's in his office. He's able to transact online on the system. And as a result, we are seeing even neighboring countries coming to benchmark with us. Tomorrow we are hosting the Office of the Attorney General of Kenya to come and see this magic that they saw while they were at the East African Court of Justice meeting in Kigali, that Attorney General is able to transact when he's away. That's one, and we encourage government to make it a null requirement for all government because it's shown a lot of efficiencies. The other one is just to emphasize the Honorable Chair. I was involved in the team that undertook to do the bid for hosting the African Humanitarian Agency. This, you will ask why Attorney General's chambers. This was directed by His Excellency the President, looking at the efficiencies that we have in the ministry to undertake this. It was not easy. We bidded against Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Kenya, among others, and we committed that once we've been confirmed to host, which was done in February this year, we only have 2 years to put up that headquarters. We have the land in Lovoa provided by National Housing. We need to start yesterday to construct that facility, otherwise we will look very, very silly. Pardon my use of that word. The other one is court award arrears. Recently there was a supplementary which appeared in the papers, 30 billion court award arrears. We were stormed by the people who were expecting that money. We've seen it's been given, but that money was given to Ministry of Finance to pay what they call mandamas. So it's a challenge for us. We really need your support that at least those key areas are financed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, this idea of government now providing money for the house for the humanitarian agency, to me sounds like a young man running after